Thank you very much for being with us. Thank you, Hans. Thank you, Sumita-san from Japan. And of course, thanks to our chair, Jean-Philippe Desmartin. It's a great pleasure and honor to be here. Now we invented a joint presentation. So we get into exploration of new ways to deliver messages together with Jean-Philippe and Mario Abela. We thought that it was a good idea to get some to recur to some art. This is a Titian painting. Titian, of course, he was the great Renaissance painter, retracting, the allegory of prudence, which of course we need prudence, that's obvious, but at the same time the three ages of man. When you're young, when you kind of mature, and when you're old. Of course, because the title of this short presentation is The Past, the Present, the Future WICI, we thought it was very useful to have that because many people do not know what is WICI, which stands, of course, for World Intangible Capital Initiative, or Intellectual Capital, if you prefer, initiative. So apart from this art, I just have to talk about the past of WICI. So the old guy, was pissed off. That guy is me. So a little bit of history, just for sharing a bit of knowledge. We had an inaugural meeting in 2007 in October under the auspices of OECD, and we established as a network in Washington, D.C. in 2008. The American Enterprise Institute. The promoting parties were the Ministry of Economy, Trade and Industry, so we have a strong governmental also origin in Japan, the Waseda University of Tokyo, my University of Ferrara, the EFFAS, the European Financial Analysts, where I met Hans many years ago, and the American Institute of Certified Public Accountants. And Brazilian Development Bank was an observer. Along the years, American Institute of Certified Public Accountants left. However, what we get more is the World Business Council for Sustainable Development and Institute of Management Accountants we've been talking to in the last few months. We developed and articulated in national and regional jurisdictions, Japan, Europe, Italy, France, Belgium, but we're talking also about with other nations nowadays. The rationale is very simple in a sense. We want to improve corporate reporting through a global framework for better measurement and reporting intangibles and corporate performance to stakeholders, shareholders, and other stakeholders. So basically the angle is from intangibles, from intellectual capital, because we think that is underreported. Some achievements. First of all, of course, we have a framework, Intangibles Reporting Framework. It's the only internationally recognized framework for intangibles that is companion to the International Integrated Reporting Framework. This was 2016. We elaborated a generic, a bit like EFRAG, generic, agnostic, you say, technically speaking, agnostic KPIs, which are 50, that can be applied by all industries. Also some generic key risk indicators, not only key performance indicator, but also key risks indicator. Intangibles related ratios that are outside the normal financial analysis. And also we elaborated 10 industry KPIs that are oriented to value creation, not to ESG in a sense. So these are the 10 industries, so they have a specific particular perspective, these KPIs. We have been collaborating with, of course, Value Reporting Foundation, the previous body that now has been incorporated into IFRS Foundation. We've been working with B20 and G20. In particular, Jean-Philippe is going to go back to this, pointing out that SDGs, we were all happy about SDGs and pursuing SDGs, elaborating SDGs, but of course intangibles are very important for some of the SDGs. And finally, another point I would like to raise is the conceptual point. It's not just about framework and KPIs, but also some conceptual aspects. Mario will come back on this as well at the end. This is about business sustainability. So the sustainability, they always say sustainability creates value, but not by itself. We need a business model and strategy. We need, of course, environmental and social aspects, and we need intangibles. Otherwise, the three of them, if they don't work together, they don't create business sustainability. And so in this respect, we think that there's also something, an important input to the current debate about sustainability. I'll leave it, of course, to our president, Jean-Philippe, present and president.
Thank you, Stefano. Thank you, because you know that past history is so key to understand the present and the future. So you already have done the job, Stefano. So for the present, remind the importance of, in our network, of WICI Japan, and also the long relationship with METI. And every year we have a global event. Here it's a WICI Europe event, but we have a global symposium in Tokyo. The next will be in a couple of days on December 4. The development of WICI Europe, we are now 3 countries, Belgium, Michel, France, André, and WICI Italy, Stefano, and more to come. We know the importance of having more countries on board. Of course, we will not have the 27 countries, but we can develop, we have some room for improvement. Very important step, very recently, this week, we now have a legal entity. This is very important in the discussion we have with European authorities, the fact that we are now a non-profit international association regulated by the Belgian law, and we have a beautiful location. Thank you for Jérôme, who is present this morning, who is part of the EIASM offices, and you can visit. It's not so far easy, fast station with underground, so you can be sustainable and move from different directions. And of course, it will be key to continue to structure and develop interaction with European public authorities, EFRAG being one example. This is the 4th biennial conference on intangibles that we have now. I give you there a non-exhaustive list of the present cooperation we have with key stakeholders in Europe. I will quote EFFAS and EFRAG, and more globally, WBCSD and ISSB and integrated reporting. I remind you that a couple of years ago, we were part of the formalization of the integrated reporting framework as being lead for connectivity. And last but not least, I think we were quite pioneer in 2019 when we sent an important message in B20 and G20 in Japan, looking at the importance of intangible when you consider the 17 SDGs. You know that the 17 SDGs of the United Nations are divided into 169 targets, and there, target by target, we identify that 24% of these targets are directly linked to intangibles, education, for instance, and more generally, a lot of social objectives, and most importantly, the fact that intangibles globally enable the implementation of all 17 goals, education being, of course, the best example. I will conclude by that, because in the debates we have now regarding sustainability, etc., we are part of a positive dynamic. And I always quote Patrick de Cambourg, who always says, think about intangible, because that's the positive part of the way we can all together progress regarding intangibles and sustainability. I think I stop there for the most important part, of course, the future, and Mario, our chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Jean-Philippe. Hopefully I can get the technology to work. So a number of you are probably aware that the CSRD mentions intangibles, and we're very cognizant of that reference in the CSRD that basically signals that intangibles are important and intangible resources should be disclosed by large undertakings. So it's good to see that we get that recognition finally in legislation, to see that there's an understanding that value creation is led by intangibles. The other side of double materiality, which often is not well understood, is value to business. I think the CSRD and the concept of double materiality has done a lot really in establishing the value to society that business creates or destroys. But we really haven't discussed the value to business piece, which is the raison d'etre of why businesses exist. And so really that's where we see WICI's sweet spot in all of this. So what we want to do to take this forward is to launch a global study group to look at this topic, to really move the debate beyond where it's become locked in many ways in standard setting on whether or not we recognise and measure intangibles on the balance sheet. We think that that's part of the conversation, but that's really a kind of incidental part at the end of the day. We need to have a much more strategic conversation about the role of intangibles, and that's really what we want this study group to do, to really give life to some of these ideas like integrated thinking that really now are so much part of our discourse. So in terms of where do intangibles fit in, we have always seen intangibles as being the bridge between financial reporting and sustainability reporting. And it, as Sumita-san was saying, you know, human capital, intellectual capital, these are fundamental to all businesses and well understood. So we're not really preaching about anything that is particularly new. It's about how do we get better at measuring and understanding the relationships between a business and its stakeholders. And we think that's where value is created. Now, it's become very topical to talk about connectivity. As Hans said, it's not a new concept, and I would go even before integrated reporting to the concept of fair presentation, that businesses have always had to stand back and make sure that they're providing the best information they can that tells the true story of what the business is doing. So connectivity is not a new idea. It's in the auditing standards. ISO 720 has been around for a long time. We saw with the whole issue of alternative performance measures, where companies decided they didn't like IFRS profit, didn't really show the true economic performance of the business, and therefore started to display other numbers that they calculated, often without much explanation, of how they arrived at those numbers. So this kind of disconnect, this telling multiple stories in the one report, is not a new tension that we're dealing with. This has been around really for some time. And really ESRS highlights in terms of the impacts, risks and opportunities that you're required to report under the ESRSs. It's shining a light on one side of the equation that we've basically ignored. And that is that externalities and business as usual is often assumed in the financial numbers. There's an assumption that, well, we've always been able to extract oil, we've always been able to sell that oil, and we can just keep doing that forever. And the fact that it's having harmful effects on the planet, on society, etc., we can just ignore that side of the transaction. And I think really the gift we have with the CSRD is it says you can't do that anymore. You now have to present a kind of balanced picture. And really this comes back to this whole idea of resilience. And intangibles aren't just telling you about the prospects of the business that are just one-sided. It's thinking about all these aspects together. So please become part of WICI. today is about starting a conversation. We want to continue that conversation. We want to build the network. We think now is a time really to bring people together, bring different stakeholders really together to really try and get to some meaningful reporting. And we have very strong foundations with integrated reporting, etc., around how do we reflect value creation in terms of corporate reporting. So thank you.
Thank you. So, thanks, Jean-Philippe. Thank you, Mario. I'm staying here because I'm the chair of the new session. So that's the only reason, and because I'm the old guy, I'm the past, you know. So I think we still have. We're running kind of all right in terms of time. I mean, I have you know, the two, you know, supervisors there, just looking at the time, all Hans and Sven. So I think we are okay with the time. We follow. I think we have more or less 200 people connected, and we have about 50 people here. Many familiar faces joined us. It's great to have all these, friends around. So basically, the session here, even if we start a couple of minutes earlier, I don't think it will be a problem. If you're ready enough, Sven, you're kind of spiritually ready. And after, so we can move to a new session that is devoted to policymakers and market regulators. I hope that I'm just looking at the technical, our technicians. I hope that the Japanese speaker is there. Is he ready? Not ready? Okay, great. And of course, we have also ESMA speaker from Paris. Okay, I would say let's start with Sven, that is here in blood, flesh and blood, and after we just double check what is the situation with the other speakers. Sven, may I invite you here, please? Sven Gentner is a key person at the European Commission. He's the head of corporate reporting unit, audit, and I think also ESG ratings. So very large competences. And Sven, I must thank you because you've always been a close friend and we've been always present in these occasions of international debates. So thank you very much, also as an academic, I must say. And please, I just leave the floor to you and to hear the recent developments in this field from the Commission. Thank you. You don't use slides, so you're okay.